Yep, you're there. Video was interrupted. Oh, you're good. Put me back.
Hi everyone. Good to see you all here on this. Where am I? On this wonderful Monday afternoon. Just going to give it just a minute or so, just to let a couple other people jump on here, and then we'll be good to go. Hey, Kara.
Hi, Kara.
Alrighty.
Hi, Debbie.
Debbie.
Little Jess.
Ooh.
Amber. Hi,
Little
Amber.
Jess and Amber. Alrighty. So it's just give another 60 seconds, and then we will jump into today's topic of the pomp. All right, well, let's get started. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Gareth Palmer. I'm a artist for Kuhn Hair Cosmetics, Senior Creative Design Ambassador. We have got a fun-filled afternoon or next hour to spend with you. Something that is near and dear to my heart, which is men's design. Today we're going to be focusing on the pomp, the pompadour. It's a really cool look. I like this shape. I like the design on this. The cool part about this haircut is there's so many different ways for us to go ahead and to achieve this. There's a lot of variances that you can do. When we're talking about the pompadour itself, we're just talking about the actual shape that you have you've got. With this mannequin, I actually cut. I'm going to move this down just a little bit so you can see that. So my head's going to be cut off just a little bit. That's all right. I have cut this in two different ways on the side, still staying within that pompadour type of a shape here. So you look on this side here, we've got a pretty high fade going into the sides there. We kept that fairly square and fairly round on that side. On the opposite side, we went in, we did a slightly lower, considerably lower fade, and into the back there, we did that down into a V. So you can see how much higher on one side we did our fade, and then you can look onto the opposite side right here, and you can see where it's a lot lower. So even though it's still even though both sides are cut differently, you've still got different markets in which you can still apply this to. So you don't necessarily need to be fairly high and tight and through the sides there to get it all the way up. You can still create that same shape by leaving a little bit more hair on through the sides there. It is somewhat disconnected. So this top, when this is down, that hair does go ahead and hang over on through the sides there. And the basic premise for this is we're going to keep a little bit more length towards the front here, like this, and then using the head form, the head shape, we're then just going to make sure that we're starting to roll this all the way down, providing a bit of lift on the apex or the high point of the head, and then making sure it's not getting too flat when it comes down into the crown area and rolling down to the occipital area as well. So you can see it's got a fairly consistent shape all the way through it. And on one side here, you can see we've taken that fairly high up, so we have narrowed off that fringe area. When you look at that, you can see on both sides, I've taken that fringe up fairly narrow through there, and then on one side, we've got that carved out around the face, and then the other side, It is really carved out through that side there, so it really goes ahead and makes it be a little bit more manageable as far as how much hair you've got at the front. One thing that I have that I've come across when we've been doing this haircut in different programs, whether it be at the academy before or out in the road or even now, digitally, is if you keep it, the amount of hair that you've got on the very front of that fringe area, that front hairline, can sometimes make it a little bit difficult to get that elevation on that front area to get that down. So it's a lot of hair to manage and to get that to sit up. So it goes ahead and make sure you're keeping that nice shape, that silhouette there. What I did was, and that's part of the reason why I started to carve up all the way up into the front hairline around the face there, was to diminish a little bit of that hair and narrow that down a little bit. So when I grab that front hair, all on the front hairline, that fringe area is only that wide. The rest of it has been carved out in through the sides there. What that does makes it a little bit more manageable, but it also narrows that shape into the front a little bit more and doesn't get too broad. So it doesn't look like, almost look like the front of a wave. So it sort of narrows that down a little bit, allows you to control that a little bit better, to have that hair start to really sit up, and that creates that pompadour, that look off the front there, to create that look. If it gets too broad, a lot of times what I've found is that with my clients is that it goes ahead and that hair will start to fall on either side of the fringe, and you really lose that silhouette, which is when you look at it, it's a striking look with the way that that shape is. So if you have too much hair in that front fringe area, it goes ahead and starts to fall. Then it loses that shape, and it really loses a lot of that dramatic look out of the shape there. So what we're going to do, we're going to get started, and we'll start to get this shape squared away. So I'm going to put him away just for a moment, and we'll grab this ragamuffin right here. Looks like he could do with a little bit of a haircut. He actually kind of looks a little bit like Keith Urban. What? Yeah. Anyways, so we're going to go ahead and now we'll get fired up with that. So the first thing that we're going to do to get started with this haircut is we're going to section it out. Now the sectioning for this haircut, you're going to work off of the round of the head, the parietal ridge. But we're actually going to go just a fraction higher than the parietal. Just going to work that around. Okay, so that's right at the parietal now. I'm going to go just a fraction higher. And by going a little bit higher than the parietal ridge, what we are accomplishing there, or our goal is it allows that pompadour look to get not only large at the front, but it also gives it a little bit of a narrowing so it doesn't get too tall and too wide. We don't want it to get too wide. We want to make sure that we're really controlling all that hair. Opposite side, we're going to match that. So I initially go straight to my parietal, and now we're just going to go just a little bit higher. Leave that out. And just section that off. Okay, once we've got that sectioned off through there. Now, in through the back with our sectioning, you can see my sectioning kind of stops as we start to hit to the crown area. I'm going to leave that out right now. I'd like to leave all that hair, because when we go back to our benchmark, you can see once we get to about maybe an inch behind the ear, it all does start to become a little bit more blended and a little bit more more of a traditional type of a guy's haircut in through the back there. So we're going to address all of that at once. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to remove all of this bulk that we've got going through the sides and the back through here. So I'm just going to take my clippers and just clipper over comb this and just remove that. We're going to take this really short, so it really showcases the actual shape. remove this. Just I'm getting rid of that extra bulk, that length, especially if you're doing like a really big transformation on someone. By getting that bulk out of the way, just makes it a little bit easier. So you've got a cleaner work area. You're able to really assess and see exactly what you're doing. Move that, and that. Now normally I'd be standing behind this, but I don't want to stand in front of the camera here, so it allows you all to continue to see. Now, because I am trying to create a little bit of a V in the back, as you're removing some of this bulk, it's almost like you're creating a tail down through the middle there. So what I'm doing is taking my comb, as I'm removing this bulk, taking my comb at a 45-degree angle back. So I'm naturally leaving a build-up of length and weight towards that center section through there. Okay, just do the final bits on this side here. So again, you can see that 45-degree back. And then opposite side, just making sure it's fairly even. Okay, so once we've established, and once we've gone ahead, we've taken off all of that bulk and all of that excess length. At this point here, I'm going to start with a clipper blade of a number 2 on here, and I'm going to start at the side through here, and then just start to remove that length. Now, when I'm cutting this, we were taught in hair school with our clippers to arc those clippers out. I don't want you to arc these clippers out at all. What I'd like to do, I want you to stay in that motion. So you stay all the way in, and then as you start to get up towards that top area, then you can start to remove that out just a little bit. What this does for your shape is it keeps it a little bit squarer. So if we scoop this out, it then begins to add width to it. So by staying all the way up and then let the head fall away from you, as opposed to you scooping away from the head, it's going to keep that tighter all the way up to the above the parietal ridge. In through the back. It's again, instead of going in square, I am going in on that 45. So you can see my cutting angle on my clippers here are at a 45-degree angle away from the face. You can see now we're starting to build up a little bit more of that length in through there. I'm going to come to my opposite side and do exactly the same thing again. So again, staying in it, all the way in, not scooping out. Not scooping out. Remove that front section there. As our men's market started to really blow up and it became trendy for guys to, start to take care of themselves and to really take pride in their appearance, and there was a real push in that barbering market. It opened up a huge door for us as hairdressers. It's not just for barbers to go ahead and to be taking advantage of. It's for us as well. We just have a different set of skill sets, a different technique that we were taught. So right now we're sort of playing catch up as far as getting our skill set up. But but what we were taught in beauty school does translate over to some of these barbering techniques. It's just a little bit different. Okay, so I've put my number 1 blades on here. I've got them all the way closed up. And we're going to, once again, keep that fairly high. And as I start to feel the head move away from me, I am going to begin to scoop that out just a little bit. And what that's going to do, it's going to start to create a buildup of weight, and it's going to help with my shape after I blow dry this, and it's going to help with my fade. That's your one side there. We go to our opposite side right here. Now the cool part about this is as we stay in this and work our way up the head and get shorter and shorter, it's going to really define our front hairline around that face area through here, like that. So then that's where you start to get a lot of that strength on your perimeter, which then plays off of that height of the pomp in the very front. Okay, going down to my nape, once again, still at that 45, start removing some of that hair. And if you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to go ahead and type those in the comments there, and I'll have Jessica Mills, our VP of Education and Shows. She can alert me and ask those questions. So feel free to ask any questions that you would like. Okay, working down into my bottom of that nape area. Just get a little bit of clean up just on this side here. Okay, at this point here, I'm going to get rid of my clipper guards, and I'm going to back my clippers all the way off. So when I say backing my clippers all the way off, you may have a lever on the side of your clipper here. You're going to push that down, which is going to push your, it's either A, going to push your bottom blade out a little bit further, or like on mine, it pulls my cutting blade back. What that does is it goes from, like, say, we're going from a 2 down to a 1, and instead of being all the way closed, now we're going to put like a 0.5 in there, which will help with our blending and our fading in through the sides. So now we go ahead once again, working all the way up, and you can see my range of motion is pretty short. They're short strokes. And one thing I have noticed for me, and it's a personal thing for me, I find it a lot easier to control my clippers with this when I'm using 2 hands as opposed to just sitting there doing it with 1 hand. It's more of a controlled type of a motion like that, and I don't get as jerky and I don't leave lines, so I'm cutting actually less.
Gareth, we have a question.
Go ahead.
How high are you taking the 45-degree angle?
How high are we taking 45-degree angle when we are at which part? There's been a lot of 45s. Let's see.
Ask for clarification on that question.
Yeah. Okay. So the question was, how high do I take my 45-degree angle? Everything once we get just behind the ear, all right here, you can start to see I've started up higher here, and then as you get back, then you start to get into your 45 right there. Okay, so you got to remember this too, is not only are we creating the silhouette on the top here at a 45, but when we want everything within the shape. So we've got this. Let me get it away here. We've got this shape that sits up here, and then it starts to roll all the way back. You see at that point there, you're at that 45. So we want all of this here, when we're cutting, our blending, to be at a 45. It's the same with this here. So you can really see there that my fade line right through here actually mimics or copies what my line is, or my silhouette, my shape is on there. So your 45 there is really going to, if we don't get this right in through here, it's going to look funny with the eye because it's not going to match both that shape there is not going to match this shape here. So last thing we're going to do is keep this super square and then have this round on the top. So we're going to make sure that it's really pleasing to the eye there. You can actually see where it starts to sort of round up just a little bit there, and then it rolls back down in. That's just head shape. That's the way it is, because not only are we cutting the head, not only are we cutting that head on the side here, but on the front, it starts to narrow in through the front. I hope that clears up a little bit.
I have another question for you.
Yes?
What's the benefit of using the clippers on dry hair instead of wet?
So the question is, what's the benefit of using clippers on dry hair instead of wet? Okay, so short answer, it's easier. Long answer, there are different types of clippers, and if you have got a magnetic driven clipper, and those were some of the older ones that we had, probably when we were in school, so like some of the Sterlings or the Wilds, they had trouble cutting through some of the wet hair if it was too bulky. So we were always told to to go ahead and to make that be drier, because then it will actually go through it. Now you're starting to see a lot of clippers where they have got, instead of being a magnet driven, they're actually rotary, they're motor driven. They can go through and cut through wet hair. Me, I like to cut on dry hair, and the reason being is I can see exactly what's going to happen, exactly how that hair is going to react, and I can see what my fade or what my shape is going to look like. Hair changes when you go from wet to dry. So by me cutting it dry, for me, I actually see the shape a lot better, and I find that I cut less. If I cut it wet first and then have to recut it dry, I might as well charge them double because I've done 2 haircuts. So I hope that answers. If not, go ahead and keep on asking there. All right, so I've done my clippers with them being backed off. Now I'm going to close them all the way up, so that'll be like a 0 here, and we're going to work our way down from about the ear and then start to work our way up. You can see this is an even shorter stroke. We're going to work around the ear. Now, when I work around the ear, this is interesting, especially with a mannequin, because I can't like move that ear out of the way. What I'm doing is, you'll notice I'm actually going to start to tilt my clippers and start cutting just with the inside corner. Work that all the way around the bottom. And you see it's a controlled motion. We're not just going in and just cutting willy-nilly and removing everything at once. Off of that corner. Now we go down to our edges. And we're really going to start to remove a little bit of hair here. And this is going to be just on my perimeter. Okay. So what we've created now is just a light, soft fade all the way through there. We haven't touched any of this. We're going to come back and we'll address that when we're done in the at the end here. Just going to hit this bottom corner. Take that tail off. Okay, so our opposite side. We're going to do exactly the same thing again. Get our one here. Remove that out, and I'm going to take this actually just a fraction higher than I did in the opposite side, just to give you 2 different looks here. Okay, I'm going to ditch the guard. We're backing those clippers off again here. I'm going to take that up a little bit higher still than what we did on the opposite side. Close those clippers up again. And you can see that the length of that cutting stroke there is a lot longer than what I was doing on the opposite side. So this is actually going to be a slightly higher fade. And as it gets higher as I get higher and I'm getting shorter through here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a natural pushback with that shape. You can start to see it start to mimic. So that's setting me up to mirror the shape that I'm going to put on the top of the head there. I'll just put those other clippers down. There we go. Okay. So you can see when you're doing this this haircut or any type of a fade like this, it's just a progression of tools that you're using, and they're all being used very specifically and purposefully. You know, not one tool can do each and every part of this, so you have to have a good a good array of tools for what you want to go ahead and do. Like right now, I'm running with two separate clippers here, and then I've got my other regular trimmers, and now on this side here, because it is a little bit higher, I'm going to introduce my zero gap T trimmers to get that down even shorter. All the way down on the side there. Now you'll notice the shorter that I get when I start going with my different tools. When I started with my big clippers, I was pretty square and taking that hair off. Now when I'm working with some of these clippers, which are a little bit, they're a little bit, they're finer. They're taking off, the hair down to almost nothing here. I'm beginning to use this in that 45-degree angle back. So it's not straight up, it's angling that back just a little bit. And the reason why I'm angling that back is, and I'll just get this here, I'll grab my doll, is we can cut this square going straight up through here. And if we just do that square, what it will do is not taking into account the fact that as we get closer to the front hairline, it starts to round. So if we just keep on cutting that square, what we'll end up doing is we'll end up getting a buildup of weight in through the front, in through that front hairline, in through here. So if we take this doll off, take this end off of here, and do this on the top, you can actually see that it's rounding in towards that front hairline through there. So actually, when you see it looking really square at the front, you're just seeing but one plane. If you look at it from an aerial view, the shape on here is actually an oval. We want it to mirror and mimic the exact head shape that we have got. That way it stays tighter and you don't end up with a buildup of length and weight right in through that front section through there. Okay, once we've done that, you see we've still got a little bit of extra hair that's sitting around that front hairline here. Okay, I'm going to edge that out to really give it some strength. So you can see there what we did is we just went ahead and strengthened that all the way up. So right there, that's tightened it up. It's also made, and this is an important thing to do, it's also made our focus towards the center. And when we have our focus towards the center, that's going to help us with our finished result. So you can start to see exactly what we've done right there and what we've done right there. But it doesn't take away from this in the front here. What it actually does is it draws the eye to it. So we want to be really strong in our details around that front hairline, because that once again is setting up that launch of that hair off of the front through here. So, yeah, if you can get that silhouette in there, the devil's in the details. These are the details that are going to make your cuts absolutely, over and above like the best, or, they'll be like, yeah, that was a good haircut. Devil's in the details, absolutely. So just going to, again, tighten that up. Okay, opposite side. You can see there we've got, because it was shorter, it is a little bit cleaner, but it's still not super tight. So you can see that really tightens that up. Now, depending upon how their hairline presents, you can either arc that into the recession area there, Or if you want to get a lot of strength in there, like say they've got, like a really high recession, like, like I do here, you can go ahead and you can really almost make that look like a number 7 in there and really give that a lot of strength in that front hairline. But pay attention to those areas because they are important. Okay, the last thing that I'm going to do on the side where I've gone up just a little bit higher is I'm going to use my foil razor just to really take that hair all the way down and really clean that up. And when I'm doing this, when I'm using my foil razor at this point here, on the front, on the side, on sideburn, I'm going to keep it very, very square. You can see my clippers are very square, they're parallel to the ground. Then as I start to get around the ear here, I'm going to, you can see now I'm at a 45, but I'm going forward. And all I'm doing is I'm just working on that very edge and that perimeter. As I come down to the edge down the bottom, once again, I'm at that 45 going backwards. By rounding that out, that once again is really going to put the focus and strength at that top section through there. It's a great tool. I don't use it on a lot of people, but the ones who I do use it on love it because it really does. It gives you just another extra layer of. It's going to sound weird. A layer of no hair. It allows you to get tighter. The hair just gets tighter onto that nape section because if you've got, if you're using clippers and if you have got them zero gap, they are going to leave just a little bit of hair there. So this just goes ahead and gives you another level of tightness towards the head there. Okay, going to leave all this stuff into the back through here, and at this point here, we're going to drop that top section down. Okay, while I wet this hair down, I believe Jessica has a question.
Let my hand give it away.
Yeah.
What is the benefit? Well, I lost it. What are the benefits of a foil razor versus a straight razor?
The benefits are, well, it's actually a legal issue, I'll be honest with you. Most hairdressers in the United States, depending upon what area you live in or your governing state board, will not. We're not supposed to use a straight razor. That's the benefit of it. If it was up to me, I would use a straight razor all day long. But in North Carolina, I'm not allowed to use a straight razor. Now, could you use one of our razors, like a safety razor on it? Sure, you could use that if you want to. But I find that the foil razor works just as well. So, is it better? Absolutely. But legally, I'm not allowed to use that, so I can't tell you to use that because that would be bad. Okay. Combing that hair back, and you can really see that point in through that back there, that V that we've created, and all that's all just been created by, instead of us just standing here and going around the head like so, we went like that, took it off there, and then as we got back, we just diagonaled that hair all the way, that comb back, which left us with all of that hair, and because we need that hair in that back section through there. Okay, hair's combed down. Okay, at this point here, I'm going to separate the back from the front. Comb that hair down into natural fall and push that front section off. If it doesn't exist, it's just going to sit there. And now we're going to start working on this back section through here. Okay. My first section is going to be a center section. And at this point here, I'm just removing some length here. This is not my final product. Now, if you'll notice my finger angle, okay, so right here, I am 90 degrees vertical. As I start to work my way up the head, I'm at 90, starting to lean back. 45 coming back. What that will do is we're going to start to mimic our head shape. Don't worry about that very bottom bit through here because we'll come back and we'll clean that up at the very end. Okay. to get our sides to mirror in, it's going to be a traveling guide. So we're going to push off to one side, pick that hair up, roll around. So again, you can see my change of my finger angle there. And then the last on that side. Slight over direction back, because that hair is going to be coming back and we'll start to push down into that back section through there. Okay, we'll do our opposite side again. Okay, this section is on base, mimicking what our section was before, so you can bring your guide from the center back over to you. And our last section, we'll over direct that hair back to our previous section, which will help with our transition. All right, going down just a little bit lower. So when we go to profile here, you can see that shape is starting to mimic that that hairline. What really gives it, so I want to create that shape there first, and then I'll come back in and I'll tighten this up just a little bit at the very end, just to make sure that I've got that mimicking it absolutely perfect. Okay, so at this point here, we're going to transition from that crown area, and we're going to start to move towards the front. Okay, once again, we're going to start with a center section. Now, one of the biggest things that I can't stress enough at this point here is make sure, because of the way the head shape is formed, okay, it's pretty low at the front here, and then it comes up higher, and then it gets lower here, okay? We don't want to mimic the head shape at this point here. We want to use this to go to the front section. Okay, so don't cut at a head form at this point here. Okay, what that will do is you'll lose the length off the front, which creates that pomp, the pompadour, and you'll be too high in the center. Okay, so we're going to pick this up, but we're not picking that comb up. Pick that up. Make the cut. The next section, now you can start to see as the head falls away, we're increasing in length here. So what I don't want you to do is go head form, head form, head form, and get that too round. We want to keep that to where it starts to launch off and get a little bit longer. Okay, and the way that does is we don't adjust our finger angle to make it longer unless you want a really, really exaggerated pompadour. We're going to use the head shape to our advantage, so we continue with that straight line, but as the head shape begins to fall away, that hair naturally gets longer. Okay, the very, very front, that would be the extension going straight forward there. What I am going to do is I'm going to very, very lightly rock my fingers back just a little bit, just to make sure that I've got enough length in that front section. Reason why I'm doing that is typically as your hair gets towards the front of your hairline or any perimeter on your hair, it gets a little bit finer, and it can cause it to be not quite as strong. And when I say strong, I mean like in strength in the shape. And if it is a little bit finer, it could cause it to where it doesn't want to reach where we want it to be. We can always take a little bit more hair off, putting it back on. It's a different story. Okay, so our sides, that was our centerpiece. Our sides here, your natural inclination is you're probably going to want to over direct that and drag that back to your center, to your previous section that you just cut. Don't do that. Okay, what that will actually do, because not only is the head falling away this way, but the head is falling away this way as well. So what you'll create is a really, really short piece in the top here, and you'll have a little bit of extra length. So remember when I was talking about it earlier, is that when we were saying about if you look straight on, you're seeing one plane, just one visual plane here. When you go to the top view, you can see it's basically a circle, so it gets tighter as it comes to the front, and then it rounds out as it comes to the back. So every time, whenever you look at this haircut, and you keep moving it around and around and around, you're actually seeing a different plane. It's not a continuation of that same cut, because we've got those 8 vertical sections in the head here, and that's a change of direction. So we want to make sure that we're addressing that all the time. But when we go to our front shape here, you can see that's the section I just cut right there. Then as I go down to my side sections here to cut, see how much that's traveled down on the sides there? That hair is going to be a little bit longer. Now, the reason that I've sort of hung on that just for a second is, if it's a little bit longer, it can be more difficult to blow dry that hair up. So when you go into the side pieces here, so if you look at that in profile, you can actually see some of that hair in through there is actually shorter than what it is in there, but it doesn't affect the whole silhouette. It doesn't change the shape of what you're seeing. Just makes it a little bit easier for you to create that look. So with that said, don't over direct to your center. Stay on base when you're making this cut. Okay, so we're going to join that. And the easiest way to make sure that you're doing that is, if I'm cutting it, he's facing this way, my mirror is either here or it's over here. It's either the front of him or the back of him. Because I can check in the mirror if I'm on base or if I'm over directing and pulling that hair towards me. That was a lot of words. Okay, picking everything up here in the front. Just rocking that back just a little bit. Opposite side, so I'm pushing towards the center here, so I want to make sure that I am staying on base. Now, I know me personally, my cutting style, when I'm cutting, if I'm pushing away, I typically get off base. If I'm pulling towards me when I'm cutting, I typically stay on base. So I know I kind of know where my, I don't want to say weakness, but it's a habit. It's something that I do. So being aware of that, I become very conscious, and I make sure that I'm not doing that. Okay, last cut right here. My guide, rock those fingers up just a little bit on the front, keep that length, last piece right there. So when you comb this down into natural fall, you can see I just realized when I'm on this side squirting water this way, I'm completely showering my computer, which I'm sure is not good for it. You can see, there's one extra long hair there. See, it's going from short to long to long to longer. Okay, so that translates to up here to there. So it's a little bit shorter, and then that goes all the way around. Now, after we blow dry this, if we need to remove a little bit of weight out through the top, because typically when we are blow drying out a pomp, we're blow drying it back towards the center to make sure that we're keeping it together. I will go through and I will texturize just a little bit in through that top section, just to remove a little bit of that bulk, so it doesn't get too bulky in that top section there. Okay, so at this point here, I've wet it down. What I'm going to do is I'm going to blow dry it. It takes just a couple of minutes to do that. To do that, I'm going to use my classic gel from 1922 by J.M. Kuhn. I love to blow dry with this particular product because it has got such a great viscosity to it. Excellent shape memory. Doesn't get flaky. And it actually smells really well. It's got a really nice fragrance to it. Okay, I'm going to make sure that we've got that combed through evenly. Lost the lid. Okay, first thing we're going to do when we start blow drying this is we're going to address our sides. So because I do want to have that somewhat square, we're going to use our vent brush here. And on low heat, I'm just going to very, very lightly just start to move that hair up. That's the way we're going to want it to go. And slightly back. I'll make this as quick and as painless as possible. I know blow drying is kind of like watching paint dry. Opposite side. Okay. Now, as we start to get in, the key with this, as we start to get into the actual blow dry here, we want to make sure that we are introducing as much height and lift as we possibly can in the very front here. And for that, you're going to need two things. You're going to need your vent brush, and then you're going to go back in and probably use a round brush just to give it that nice roll in through that front section. When I start to blow dry this, I will blow dry this exactly the same way that I cut it. So I will start in the back, promote a little bit of lift, and roll that back. And as I'm saying, rolling, you can actually see the vent brush rolling, and I'm using the air, the blow dry air, to push that exactly where I want it to go. So all I'm doing with the vent brush is promoting a little bit of lift. And then as I get down to the occipital, just going to use my fingers, still blow drying it back towards the center, but not promoting any more lift in there. You can see you started to create just a little bit of shape there. Okay, once that's done, now we're going to start to introduce a little bit more hair from the top. And really lifting that hair up so it starts to lift up like so. Start to marry the front to the back. As I get to my sides, you see here, I'm blow drying it up, back, and a little bit towards the center. Still introducing a little bit more hair, marrying those pieces. Really starting to stretch out that roll in the front there, so it's starting to sit all the way up. So you can really start to see that shape being established now. And as I work further towards the front of the blow dry here, of my shape, I'm now going to begin to start to drag that a little bit off base forward, and then really roll that all the way up. The reason we want to pull that forward some is if we stay on base here, we're not going to get any length going forward, which will then make that shape be basically straight up. It almost look like a wave just going straight up his forehead. Okay, so right here, I'm at about 90% dry, and you can really see that shape has just come in through there. And that was all just with your vent brush. So then you can take your round. Now on the sides, instead of going straight back, on the sides here, now I start to really shape that towards the center. That way I can start to see how that shape just starts to come in? And I can already tell that I'm going to need to remove a little bit of bulk out through the center, but that's okay because it's always, like I said, it's always easier to remove hair than to put that hair back on again. All right, so as a stylist tip right now, if you're having trouble getting the hair to stand up to keep that shape, at this point here, reintroduce some more of our gel and blow dry that dry hair. So what that will do, that will actually it'll firm up that finish for you, and will give you a bit more strength. Because the last thing we want to go ahead and do is make it to where it becomes like insanely hairspray plastered. No one wants to see that type of a look. Okay, all right. Because I am having trouble through that center there, we're going to remove just a little bit of length. Okay, and in removing a little bit of that length, I'm going to go back to my original center section through the middle. Remember, I cut that very, very blunt. Okay, at this point here, we're going to point cut that just to remove a little bit of that hair. Okay. So you can see that center section now, that actually wants to stand up through there. On the sides, just a little bit. Once again, I'm going to stay on base very lightly. Just remove a little bit of that hair to the front. And even when I'm texturizing at this point here to remove some of this weight out of the ends, you'll still see I'm staying head form, and then when I get to the front, I'm rocking my fingers back. So it's all mimicking exactly what I did initially when I cut this top section to put that shape in. We want our texturizing to go ahead and to support the shape. So we want to make sure that we're cutting or removing that weight off of the ends the same way that we put that shape into the hair. We don't want it to fight each other. Okay. Over the crown. So you can see right there, now that hair wants to start to sit up a little bit more, so we can, a little bit of spray on there, we can introduce that into that top section there. Okay, the last bit that we, at this point here, that we're going to need to address is going to be that nape section. So I'm going to lift this up so you can see it. You see, we've got a bunch of hair that's sitting right there. Using my clippers, with them closed, at this point here, we're just going to work down, open them up, work down into that nape area. And just clipper over comb just to blend that in. And you'll notice I'm still using my comb at my 45. So that has stayed consistent throughout the entire haircut, working with that 45. So even from the back through there, you can see where we've got that shape that's still coming back through there. You can see where that there is mimicking, well, even almost like George Michael right now. Anyway, you can see there where it's starting to mimic that shape. Is going to mimic with that shape right there. So it gives you that continuity. It draws the eye. It gives it. It makes it feel as though it's balanced and it's supposed to be there. This side here, it's not quite as short, so we don't need to do quite as much. Because remember, we cut both sides just a little bit different. So backing that off, take that out, and I'm just going to work down into that nape area. Okay. Combing that down in the mid, from the top here, just to give it a nice soft finish. And you notice once again, my comb is in that 45 back, and my cut is in that 45 angle back as well. Okay. Just a little bit, I saw in the camera there. I'm going to clean my shape up just by shaping it up with the freehand with my clippers. Okay, at this point here, I'm going to grab some of my my freestyle spray from Style, and on my hands, just start to introduce a little bit of spray into the hair. detailing part of doing this haircut, when you are actually detailing it out, is going to be one of the most important parts of this haircut, because you're going to need to make sure that you've taken enough weight out to where it will support standing up, but not to the point where you've absolutely just taken so much out of it that it's not going to still have the same finish. Ta-da. There's a version. It's a version of a pompadour. You're going to see a lot of different ones out there. A couple of points that I just want to go ahead and sort of touch on before we move on to other announcements is the blow dry. You can see it kind of comes forward. That's where that over direction comes in when we're using the vent brush and the round brush to really drag that forward to make sure that we've got that roundness in there. Because if it was sat straight back like so, then it would look a little bit weird if it was mashed all the way down like that, as opposed to like that. It changes the whole dynamic of it. So make sure that your finish is really strong by pulling that all the way out, so it gives it that pomp type of a feel there. Do we have any questions or any comments, or does anyone have any answers for me? That'd be great. I like answers.
No, we're good.
No? Excellent. All right, so play with your men. Play with your men's haircutting skills here, and get out and have a turn. This is fun stuff. It's really cool. Don't be shy. Jessica.
Love it. Love this cut. Hey, guess what? We're doing, I want to send out a reminder to everybody. If you're watching the comments, you're seeing something pop up in regards to our summer giveaway. You guys check it out, get on there and register. You could win a retail bar and 4 full-size products, a value of $1,250. So get out there. This just launched at noon today, Eastern Standard Time. Sorry, friends from abroad, it's for U.S. only. So check it out, and you guys all get on there and register. Thank you, Gareth. What a great program today.
Thank you all. Thank you very much, Jessica, for fielding questions. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time out of your Mondays. I hope that everyone is well. Continue to make everyone beautiful, one head at a time. We'll look forward to seeing you on the road really soon. So appreciate your time. Don't be shy to check in with James Helton next week, 1 o'clock. Same station, same time, all that good fun stuff. And he has got some other men's techniques and designs that he wants to go ahead and share with you as well. So tune in for that. Until then, be good, be safe, and be beautiful. Thank you all very much.